Just keep giving the Packers body blow after body blow. Keep hitting them in the mouth. We felt like if we kept taking them down to deeper water, they'll find out they can't swim. Welcome to another disappointing episode of Lombardi Time Brews. I am your host, John Del Rey. Yes, that quote that I read in the intro, that was from Jets head coach Robert Saleh following the game yesterday. He was giving his post-game press conference and he was asked, what did that halftime speech look like? Because at halftime, it was still a game. What did the halftime speech look like to your guys in the Jets locker room? And again, he said, body blow after body blow, keep hitting them in the mouth. We feel like if we kept taking them down to deeper water, they'll find out they can't swim. Yeah, he's right. And I guess my biggest thought with that quote, and this is the overall topic of the day, because obviously today we are diving into Jets versus Packers. Just how wrong did this go? But more so than focusing on the Jets side of things, because the Jets did do a number of things really well when they took control of the game. And I'm not going to not give them credit. I'm just talking about just the Packers side, because the Packers side are much larger problems than just this one game. In fact, frankly, I'm barely going to focus on the Jets game, but all of these problems are pertinent, and they just came out in full fruition against the New York Jets, who just happened to be coached by Matt LaFleur's best friend. Here's the first issue. Matt LaFleur, your best friend. My God, this has been covered for years. We know you're friends. Your best friend in the world, best man at your wedding, got up after the game and into a microphone said, basically, I know that my team can go into my best friend's house, punch his team in the mouth, and they won't be able to recover. And the most damning thing is he's right. Completely and utterly right. That is perhaps the heaviest critique and honest that you can give not only the Packers coaching staff, but this team as a whole. How, if you are Matt LaFleur, do you not hear that quote and ingrain that into every fiber of your being to not right the ship? How did you see Brian Daboll running off the field last week, showing more emotion than a Packer has in years, and not take that personally? How do you hear that quote, not take it personally? How, if you're the Green Bay Packers, for the love of goodness, watch Sauce Gardner, a rookie corner from the New York Jets, put a cheesehead on his head at the end of the game and parade around like it was his homecoming. I know Alan Lazard eventually ran over and knocked over that cheesehead, and we're going to get to Lazard in a minute. But the truth is, Lambeau Field, one of the few stadiums left that hasn't been claimed by some corporate entity to call it U.S. Bank at Lambeau Field or some other crap. Lambeau Field. The moniker that used to mean something. A place of pride and tradition and legends. And you're gonna let some rookie run around with a cheesehead. Now, I'm not saying you should have started a fist fight or anything like that. Don't blow this out of context. But the truth is, if every single member of the Green Bay Packers organization doesn't take the picture that is being widely circulated of Sauce Gardner wearing a cheesehead, print that out, stick it in your locker, and you make sure that that never happens again. If that is not your priority because you're too worried about finding contentness in this world, you're in the wrong line of work. I'm sorry. Football is competitive. It is a game of emotion. And you allowed yourselves to be trampled on in your stadium. This wasn't just a typical loss, and that's the thing. And I know over the last couple of videos there have been some Giants and Jets fans and others saying, well, now you see what it's like. We sucked for a long time. Now you guys suck for a couple weeks and you're all losing your minds. Yeah. Part of the reason is because on paper, this should be one of the most talented rosters of Aaron Rodgers' career. I don't think it's a stretch to say that. Is it lacking in some areas? Sure, but as the holistic, this should be one of the most talented rosters he's had. And we're not the Giants and the Jets of the last few years. I'm also a Brewer fan. I know what it's like to root for mediocrity and celebrate the successes as they arrive. Like, I get it. I mean, the baseball team I root for hangs banners for wild card spots. I understand. But we're not talking about that right now. We're not talking about any other team. We're talking about the Green Bay Packers. And the issue that I have is if this were just a one-off game, if this were just a typical loss, okay, fine. We've seen this team not get off the plane before. We've seen them not show up before. And then they play well the next week. Okay, fine. Everyone has bad days. We get it. But now you're veering into territory because of the complete egg that you laid in London. And then you come home. This was supposed to be the easier stretch of games for you. Yes, the London thing messed up all of your travel for sure. But now you're home against the Jets, against one of the softer parts of your schedule. And that's not to diminish the Giants or the Jets or any of the other teams. It's just true. Because now after this game, they go on the road for weeks. London threw a wrinkle, sure, but you should have been able to plan for it. Other teams have. I think John Kuhn last week said it really well in that in London, they didn't play the Giants. They played the London trip. And everything that they planned for was to set themselves up for success after the London trip. Like the way that they traveled, the way that they practiced, the way that they handled all the time changes was set up success after the London trip. And now, hey, look at that. We're after the London trip and you still suck. Which means all that planning was for naught. Because if that would have occurred, the loss to the Giants at least could have been excusable. But now you set yourselves up for success after the London trip. You come back home, you're in Lambeau, you face the Jets, who are a very talented and up-and-coming team, and you just don't really want to play football, do you? You just don't want to. Because that's what it looks like. And of course, that's hyperbole. Of course, the Packers have a desire to win. But something's wrong. Wrong. With the way that they started the game yesterday, the Packers seemed to not even be in the least bit agitated that they blew the game against the Giants. They didn't seem to be even the least concerned that they may fall to 3-3 by taking on the Jets at home. And they should have been. And now, all of this, Sauce Gardner wearing a Cheesehead, Robert Saleh saying this about his best friend after the game. You should be livid if you're Matt LaFleur. If you're an individual in the Packers organization, you should be losing your mind about this. Because now, it's not just that it was a bad day. Opposing coaches now have the book on you. And the book says, punch them. Body blow after body blow. This team isn't strong enough to take it. This team isn't mentally strong enough to hack it. And we're going to win. And yet, after all of this, Al Lazard is standing yesterday doing a post-game, I believe, locker room talk. He's asked about the offense. And he says, I don't think it's anything to be too down about. What do you mean too down about? He put out a tweet last July, which I think is very much worth visiting. And I saved it back then for a reason, because I had a feeling like this is going to come up. And at the time, it could have been construed as a contract conversation. You know, I'd be like, here's what he put out. And this is just the back part of it. There was more to it, but it was all just, you know, this kind of stuff. But here's the last sentence. Stay even-keeled, and you will find the most peace. And so that tweet suddenly turns into this quote, which is, I don't think there's anything to be too down about. We put up, 10 points against the New York Jets? We're fine. The offensive line is fine. Rodgers is fine. Aaron Jones getting 4 touches in the first half? That's nothing to be too down about. We'll be fine. And in past years, I actually believed that. And that wasn't to say that it was foolhardy back then. It's to say that the tea leaves that make up the answers this time are different. The problem, I think, is that the Packers believe it. To me, I've seen some calling for Brian Gutekunst to come into fire and everything. No, I don't. To me, he assembled a very talented roster. That is his job. How those players get used, whether they are put in position for success, and how they play is not on Brian Gutekunst. When we talk about a talented defense on paper, when we talk about a talented team on paper, that on paper part, that's Gutekunst's job. To make sure that on paper all the pieces are there. And then making it into a cohesive unit that can play football together and adhere to a scheme, that's the coaches. We're talking about the NFL. We're not teaching guys how to tackle, how to catch, how to do. No, all of that is in the lower levels. This now is advanced. This is putting guys into position to succeed. The GM's job is to give you the roster on paper. Your job as a coach is to put it together. The player's job is to do what they're told from the coaches. To use all of their learning over all of the years that they've been playing football. So I'm not willing after this loss to come down on Gutekunst when we came into the season knowing we had a massively talented roster. Were there some deficiencies? Yeah, absolutely. There are on almost every team. Were there some holes that he could have addressed? Yes. Did he do a good job filling a number of them? Yeah, I'm going to give him credit for that. But going back to the even-keeled thing of Al Lazard, the Packers seem under this grand pop psychology thing that if you just stay mature, stay even-keeled, we will find peace. we will find success. The problem is, they seem to believe that bringing peace brings wins, which is kind of like the whole point of what they do, right? Like, the whole point of being a football player is to win the game. And they seem to be under the impression that, like, if we find this inner peace, we will find a win. And inner peace translates to not feeling the ups and downs of the long season. We don't feel the anger or the sadness. We just show up to work every day. Same mood every day, regardless of what happens out there on the field. We stay emotionless. The problem is, true inner peace comes with allowing yourselves to feel. If you look across the world, some of the people who are most at peace are some of the most intense people. Why? Because they feel. They feel everything. And yet the Packers leadership continues to strive for this. It's fine. It's fine. No, it's not. It's not. Because you don't have the ingredients that you've had over all of these years to let you say that it's fine. This is a new team with what should be a new way of playing football. And you're not doing it. Because you're seeking peace? Because you're stubborn? Being stubborn and peaceful. It feels like hyperbole, but like, because you just don't care? Because you're fine with the outcomes of winning or losing. I'm sorry. Emotion is a part of football. Emotion is a part of so much of what anyone does in the entertainment world. Football is that. You got to be prepared to feel. And right now, you should be feeling a whole lot of shame. I'm going to dive into just a couple of topics here, and then I'm going to leave this be. Look, defensively, there were some good things for the defense. Jair Alexander began to look like his old self. He was truly locked down on Wilson there for a bit. Zach Wilson, speaking of the other Wilson in the Jets offense, 10 of 18, 110 yards. That's all they held him to. That's good. That's good. The bad, obviously, is Breece Hall continuing to run rampant. How the Packers are so bad at run defense, I don't understand. How these linebackers get swept up into switches, and Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary, for as good as they are at times, just don't set an edge. It's baffling. And Devondre Campbell, what happened? There's some tweets, I may get the exact numbers wrong because I don't have it pulled up here, but like there's some tweets out there that Devondre Campbell missed like 4 tackles all of last season, and he's already up to 9 this season. What is that? There are a few plays in yesterday's game that I tweeted about that, like, as they happened, just why is the middle linebacker of last year, who played with such intensity, such ferocity, suddenly just like getting stiff-armed? He's not driving through the ball carrier to bring them down. He's just stomping. Whenever there's contact, he just stops. It's not the guy we had last year. In fact, I saw a few tweets from a few accounts that I really respect yesterday saying, who on the Packers is playing better this year than they did last year? And I think you've got, besides the injury guys, I think you've got Rashawn, yeah. I think you've got Mason Crosby, sure. Kenny Clark at times, certainly. Maybe John Runyon Jr. up until yesterday. And then maybe Aaron Jones. 5 dudes out of 53. Not a good ingredient for winning football. And I'm sure there's a couple others there too that I'm missing, but like really, that's pretty much it. Like, those are the ones that come to mind. But in terms of the pass defense, look, we asked for all of these adjustments for Joe Barry to make them, and some were really made. For that, we should be happy. They did shut down Zach Wilson effectively. Yes. It was not the Jets' offense that dominated the Packer defense and took this win. Packer defense fell apart towards the end. They could not continue holding. Yes, that is true. They probably went too cautious again at the end of the game. Yeah, that again is true and so freaking baffling. But to start that game, the defense played better. They made a number of the adjustments that were asked of them. That is a good thing. Looking at the offensive side of the ball, offensive line. What? I swear to God, Royce Newman's never seen a stunt in his life. There are other videos, other content that are going to break this down snap by snap all week long. And if you would like to punish yourself and go check them out, by all means, feel free. But boy, in watching that game again, I don't get it. The Jets' defensive line came out and played hard. But the plays that blew up the most were guys that just straight up weren't blocked. I'm not going to tell the Packers how to fix it, but look, Royce Newman needs to be out of the lineup, period. I'm done with this. It's been long enough. We saw flashes at the end of last year of Newman improving, and now they just seem to really be gone. And maybe it's because they've asked him to change positions too much between right tackle and right guard. Maybe, who knows what's going on there? But right now, his play is not up to snuff. So get it gone. For a team that prides itself on having all of these versatile linemen that can just switch positions so easily and take up the offensive concepts because they shouldn't be that complicated, and they can switch from left guard to right guard, and we're a team full of Elton Jenkinses. It's not working right now. So if you've got all this versatility, if you've got all this investment on your depth, put them in. Play them. And get rid of the problems. They tried yesterday when benching Royce Newman, and instead they put in Jake Herndon. What are you doing? Aaron Rodgers. I talked about it yesterday, and I'm not going to belabor this point, but I don't know. Can he not run at all anymore? Because I retweeted it a little bit ago. Matt Schneidman put out an actual still graphic of Rodgers having at least like 8 yards there to run, and instead he throws it to Romeo Doubs 12 yards away, who's blanketed in coverage. What are you trying for? Take the 8 yards. And Rodgers yesterday was running for his life. Yes, he was. There were a lot of times, though, where he wasn't exactly getting the ball out quickly either. There were a lot of times yesterday where his throws were not exactly on target. And that's on him. There is no doubt that Rodgers is not playing up to his standard. And that should not be lost in all of this. And even going farther than that, how about the other Aaron? Aaron Jones. At this point in the season, he's up there in terms of leading the NFL in yards per carry. You want to know where he is in numbers of carry, though? Not even in the top 20. In fact, through this many games, this exact point in the season, his most comparable season as to where is he getting the most touches is his rookie year. When Davante Adams left town, I think it was a very safe and simple assumption to say, all right, well, Davante Adams is gone, Aaron Jones is going to get the ball more. He's their biggest playmaker, right? And instead, he's getting it less. How? If you're saving him for the playoffs, you might need to stop to save your regular season. 4 first half touches for a player as talented as Aaron Jones is straight up malpractice. and spare me the entirely cliched post-game press conference that says, "That's on me. We are aware. We have been saying it for a long time." As have you, which is why your cliches have gotten worse and worse to listen to. You cannot say the exact same thing after every single loss and expect to maintain credibility. You just can't. 'Tis a fact of life. Before I close this up, I am going to go over just four little positives that we can take from this game. Jair looked locked down. That was great. David Bakhtiari played well, and he played the whole game, which furthers the whole, no need to not mess with the line. David Bakhtiari's healthy. You can leave him alone. You can switch other dudes around. But certainly a good sign. And he, of the 5 offensive linemen, realistically probably played the best of them all. Next positive, the Packers got a block punt. Yeah, they gave up 2 blocks, but they got a block punt. We will take it. That is something. And then the last shout out that I'm going to give happens to go to rookie Kingsley Enagbare. His first career sack. He brought bursts of energy when he was on the field. If he can develop into a legit edge number 3 for the Packers, that's huge. Because Lord knows they need the depth at that spot. So, that's it for today. That is the Green Bay Packers and where they stand right now. This team, it has execution problems all over the field. Its scheme may not be befitting to the players that are there right now. And yet, in my mind, from my observation, what I see, the biggest problem with this team, boy, where's the want? When I was a little kid, I used to watch the movie The Replacements with my dad. God, it felt like we watched that movie once a week. We loved that movie. The old Gene Hackman, Keanu Reeves, they're a bunch of scabs taken in for a team on strike, and Keanu Reeves is the quarterback who's had breakdowns in his past and was out of the league, but now he's back with Coach Jimmy McGinty. Love that movie. And in it, there's one key part where after some of the great players come back, or some of the regular players come back, and some of the strike players are gone, Keanu Reeves one of them, Gene Hackman is asked, what does your team need to fix itself? And he says, heart. Gonna need a whole lot of heart. Miles and miles of heart. Packers need to find theirs, because right now, doesn't exist. And there you have it. Join me for Wednesday's episode of Lombardi Time Brews. I'm going to be fully honest. I don't know what it looks like yet. For sure, I'll have some injury updates. We may just continue to explore this too and see, maybe stop looking at the downside, but look ahead as how do they fix it? Offer solutions to the problems. But either way, join me on Wednesday. No matter what that episode looks like, I will be here. So hop on. Welcome to all of our new subscribers. Welcome to everyone checking out the channel for the first time. Really, really glad that you're here so that you can be part of the Packer community at Lombardi Time Brews, the brand new Packer podcast. I hope you are having an absolutely wonderful day. I hope your day is filled with heart and passion. And as always, go Pack Go.